Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to episode 5 of Riddles Around the World. I am your host. My name is Johnny. Nice to meet you. We are followed up and joined with the man of God himself with the Superman shirt on today. What's up? How you doing, Shane?
Uh, Never mind. I'm gonna be nice and say I'm okay.
Okay, that works. I like that answer. So today we have a very controversial topic, and I think a lot of people are going to get behind this one. We have the theory about the media coverage being corrupted and covering everything up. And at this point in time in our life, I don't think it's a theory anymore. It's actual factual, in my opinion.
It's- yes, go ahead. Anyways,
Well, today we are discussing what was it, Glenn Maxwell? I think I'm saying the name right. Is that
I don't know.
wrong?
I just call her Maxwell. I don't remember. It's been so long since anybody covered her. I can't remember how to say the first
All
name.
right. So we're the Maxwell woman. So Shane, I will let you take the reins and take off. Let's see what happens with this.
All right. So here's what I don't understand about this Maxwell case, right? Like this case is tied to some of the biggest people, not just in the states, but in the world. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sex trafficking ring tied to every political power that you can think of, known to be tied to them, known that she's involved, just not to what degree, and I'm not hearing about it.
You know what you did hear about though? The Kyle Rittenhouse case.
Which
So,
was one kid during one riot on the events of one day, regardless of your stance on it.
mm-hmm.
It covered what a few minutes worth of time. It's all we heard about for days.
It was almost. I think I want to say almost 2 weeks. That was all you heard about, and it started being covered around the same time she or her trial started. So why did we only hear about this one kid rather than, like you said, one of the biggest sex trafficking rings ever? She
Ever,
has intel
maybe ever.
on everybody, and they're like, we have to talk about this kid that shot somebody. That's important right now. So,
Not just not just that, but like it's like they do just enough to say they're covering it. Because
yeah.
I searched her name yesterday, and there were results there that were days old and nothing new since.
Mm-hmm.
But Rittenhouse was getting updates every 15 minutes from those same places.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? What made the Rittenhouse case more important than an international sex trafficking ring with supposedly some of the biggest political figures in the world? So I guess the
Because
real
if we
conspiracy is what's the reason? That's what I
so
want to know.
because if we find out about these political people, nobody believes in the government anymore. That's what's going on.
Nope,
They nope,
false,
no
false. Here's why.
ah
Here's why.
here we go.
Because already nobody believes in our government
All
anymore.
right, that's true. Very true. Good
So,
point. I'll give you
so
that one.
that's not our motivator. I think it's because what's happened is as the media started getting tied into politics so much in the last few years, especially in and I'm not stating a stance here, but they've been tied to liberal politics, which is their views. That's fine, but they've gotten so tied into it that that started to reciprocate, and suddenly politics were tied a little more into media. So
A
now
lot
they're
more.
worried a lot more. So they're worried about their freedom of press. So what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen is they're like, oh man, we could do this, but if we start pointing out some of these names, they're going to start shutting us down.
See,
So
and the
that's what I
biggest
think they're
issue with
afraid of.
that, one of the biggest issues with that, in my personal opinion, is every news outlet, the only thing they care about is covering it first. No media
Right.
coverage anymore ever cares about covering the truth. The only thing they care about is who's the first to throw the news out there. They don't care if it's gonna slanderize somebody's name or if none of it is has any evidence to become true.
It doesn't have to have
As
any
long as
evidence.
they can throw something out there first, that is the only thing they give a shit about.
And it's not just the getting it out there first. It's but they're telling us like, hey, this is what you got to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not real news. News should be, hey, here's everything that's going on. Here's all sides of everything that's going on. You figure out what you think about it or what you think is objectively or subjectively more important. That ain't what they're doing anymore.
Nope.
Now instead it's, hey, this is what we want you to talk about. This is all we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
You
And
sit here
that's
and
not
think about
just
it.
one
When was
side
the
or the other
last
anymore.
time you saw anything positive in the media? Anything positive? I couldn't tell you. Me personally, I don't watch the news for the simple fact that I think they're all full of shit. That's my personal standpoint on it. Hate me for it if you want, but that's my personal opinion. But even scrolling through Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media you use, it's almost impossible to find videos or things that give faith in humanity again. You do have those random gems that pop up, but from the actual news outlets or medias,
Right.
you almost never see nothing but negativity. And it's because that's the profitable thing to talk about.
It's
The more
buzzwords,
negative
man.
the more negative it is, the more of a clickbait it is for a bunch of people to click on it and you
That's
get a
right.
bunch of views and that's how you get paid. Now,
Yeah.
and I do see where they're coming from. They want to make money, but at the same time, you are a news. You giving us the news that we need to know. I don't care about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I care about finding out if I need to worry about my son's safety later on in life. I need to find out about these sex rings that are happening, and you know, if that makes sense. I feel like that's a more important news coverage to tell people about rather than just be like, oh well, he shot somebody. We'll be back in 10 minutes to tell you shot somebody again.
Well, there's two problems to it. The first one is when they're doing that, right? Like they're looking at the stuff that isn't actually the most important stuff
Mm-hmm.
because it fits their views. But the other one is the more that they do that, you'd think at some point they realize, hey, we'd be more successful as a business if we did our job right, not just catered to a certain group.
Yeah.
An honest news outlet that covered all of the information and all of the cases they can possibly fit into the time they have,
Yep.
you'd think would be more successful. But even the conservative ones, everybody talks about liberal media because liberal media is awful. They just are.
Mm-hmm.
But even the conservative ones that are calling them out on that, I don't see them covering Maxwell stuff either. Why? Why would you avoid that topic when it's got to be the biggest case in the country right now,
It,
or should be?
yeah, it definitely should be. So I don't know personally. I would like to speak with somebody about that and be like, why are y'all not covering this and get an honest answer from somebody.
I sent some emails, but I'm a nobody, so probably ain't nothing going to come of it.
Who'd you email? Send the list to me. I'll email them as well.
Uh, all right, I might do that.
my,
It's a long list.
my,
Okay.
my emails will be a little more abrasive than yours.
Uh,
Yours is more politically correct. Mine's gonna be like, "Hey, you dumbass."
I think the only difference might be word choice. I'm pretty sure the tone will be very similar.
I can agree with that.
In fact, I would almost guarantee that a couple of those have blacklisted me already. I know that because I had an account, a subscription to one of them, and I can't access it anymore. So, anyways,
Not gonna say any names, but whatnot.
I'm tempted. I
All right,
almost
go
did, but
ahead.
I probably I
Shots
shouldn't.
fired. Let's do it. Let's bring
Yeah,
it back.
let's say that till we got a little bit bigger viewership,
All right, cool, cool.
and then I'll just have at it. Okay.
We'll do that then. Well, another thing we can cover in the media, or in the sense of cover-ups and whatnot, the Flint, Michigan water source issue.
Yeah.
That has
I,
been going on for I couldn't tell you how many years exactly. But they're like, hey, we want to help everybody and make this country great again. And then it's like, hey, well, can we get some fresh water? We'll get to y'all in a minute, but we're going to worry about this issue over here. But we know you still can't, do anything with your water. It's like that's another thing in my personal opinion. I think that should be something that gets talked about more regularly than it does.
right.
Like that affects I don't want to say millions of people, but it probably a significant number.
Thousands of people for a long time.
Yeah. So like I mean, there's plenty of news outlet things that are cover ups, such
Well,
as like
I tell you what gets me with something like that is you people that are like, no, the news isn't biased. If the news was that biased, we would notice. But I'll be honest with you, I
you
forgot
do.
about Flint, Michigan until you mentioned it
Yeah.
because it'd been so long since I heard anything. I was like, oh, must have got resolved. No, they
No,
didn't.
they didn't.
They just weren't talking about it because they had things like Rittenhouse to talk about.
But another thing you can just off the top of my head, how many other cases like this got swept under the rug
Not even
by
swept
by
under the
another?
rug. there's this the way they talk about things, like just the way they choose their words. There's a lot of really good, interesting studies in the words people use. There was a TED talk once where they talked about the fact that in countries where the word bridge is feminine, they use words like beautiful to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But in countries where the word for bridge is masculine, they use words like strong to describe it. The words you use affect how you view things.
Yeah.
Another example they gave was that there was a tribe that doesn't use things like left or right or up or down. They only use cardinal directions like north, south, east, and west, and they all have incredible senses of direction because words change how we think about things.
Yeah.
So when you get to stuff like this guy who drove through the Christmas parade, and you've got major news outlets saying that the car drove through there, they didn't just happen to pick those words.
Yeah.
They were trying to influence the readers by saying the car drove through the parade, even though that's not what happened. The car didn't drive itself through a parade.
Nope. Well,
So
was it a
they're picking
Tesla?
their
It
words
might
out to
have.
do it.
I'm just kidding. Elon,
Uh,
don't cancel me. I apologize.
uh, I'm not too worried about Elon watching this.
I'm not either. But if you do, keep up the great work, buddy. I'm just kidding.
I don't even know
But
anything about him other than he looks funny, so I'm still not worried about it. But yeah, but like you're saying, right?
speaking
Looking
of
at
like
not
TED
just
Talks,
coverage in a bad way, but the way that they don't cover things is
yeah.
just
So I read an interesting article. I want to say 2 or 3 days ago about the fact that the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff was over, and the only major thing going on right now was the Maxwell case. Now I don't
right.
know if you know about this or not, but there was a school shooting a couple of days ago.
I do.
Now, uh, sincerely, I feel for all the families that were affected by that. And if any of y'all happen to see this, I'm not saying this in a personal way or not, but the article I read stated that that might have been a ploy for the government to cover up the Maxwell case. So the media coverage would have something else big to talk about. So if you think of it in that case, let's say hypothetically that is the exact thing that happened. The government was like, "Hey, we need you to handle this," and a kid goes and shoots up a school. If that is the case in a hypothetical sense and it's real, how many times have the government covered something up with that? How many times do we get school shootings a year now? It's a lot more often than it should
And
be.
but
And
you,
it's
you see stuff like that, and you see stuff about COVID now too. Like, hey, Maxwell case is starting. Release the Omicron variant, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I'm seeing that stuff. I'll be honest. I can see why people would assume that, but
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily why they would believe it. Like I see the track their mind took to get to those conclusions, but I don't think it logically follows. Here's what I do know: anything that happens other than the Maxwell case is getting all the coverage. So I'm not saying they were caused to draw
Mm-hmm.
attention away. I'm saying at the least the media is taking advantage of those things
Mm-hmm.
to talk about something else.
Well, that was
That by itself is a problem.
that was one of the things the article was stating was, like I said, in the hypothetical sense, how many other cases have been covered up by stuff like this? Or let's say, what was it? Was it 2 or 3 years ago? The dude that was in Vegas that shot all those people.
Yeah.
There that got almost no media coverage other than the initially of how it happened.
Or
But
misdirects of they
saying
make a
that it
quick
was,
reference to, hey, this happened, but then they just started talking bad about guns.
yeah,
They didn't
and
actually
then
talk about the event.
they had said that it happened from a bump stock. Now I don't know how well you know weapons. I know you know them fairly decently. I do too. I have not owned a bump stock, but I've had friends that owned them, and I've used them, and like just being out in the woods shooting, they do not shoot that fast. They
Right.
do make it seem more like it's a fully auto, but it does not shoot as fast as that what they showed. What
Right.
he had was a fully automatic weapon. No ifs, ands, or buts. And how he got as many weapons and as much ammunition up to that room as he did without getting caught is beyond me. That is a whole nother topic that the media never covered.
I'll tell
Why
you what,
not?
this is a bit of a tangent, but I'll bring it back in a second. Another thing is you take the example of that story, and you saw after that all these politicians that are saying stuff about guns that just aren't true.
Yeah.
Like not even remotely true, like how guns could shoot 100 rounds a minute or something, or how it could leave a hole in somebody that's a foot wide. That's not just wrong factually. it's wrong because those people have research teams that help write the things they say.
Hmm.
There's no way that those research teams got to where they are being bad at research. So they knew better.
To bring that point around that you're making, I remember around that same time as the Vegas shooting that happened, there was a person on the news that carried a shotgun out to a field, shot a watermelon. It exploded because clearly that's what's going to happen. And he
Yeah,
caught it on live TV, said this is the damage that an AR-15 does, and had a 12 gauge pump
right.
shotgun in his hand. The fact that you are that
Oh,
unintelligent when it comes to a topic that you are on national TV talking about baffles me that you're allowed to say this in front of millions of people.
right.
There's at no point you should be able to say or have a conversation or a discussion on the news that you have zero knowledge of. If you have
That
no knowledge
that's
of it, you should at the start of the program be like,
I don't know
listen,
what I'm talking
guys,
about.
I know nothing about this at all. Like I say in every episode that we talked about some theory or something, I am not an expert. This is all my personal opinions. That should be how they talk. Because if you're going to say something as stupid as a shotgun is an AR, you shouldn't have any rights to talk about it. That's my personal opinion.
Hey, no, no. Well, I'll be honest. Subjectively, we can say it, but I'd also say objectively, since you're the news,
You
you
should know.
shouldn't
Yeah,
or don't talk about it. Yeah, no, or don't talk about it.
yeah,
And you
100%.
did. You beat me to it. That's how I was going to bring it back. Was say that you see the same problem with journalists of being like, "Hey, this is how this works." No, or you see people that are, or they'll even go more indirect and they'll take pictures of people that have signs that say stuff that isn't true and plaster
Hmm.
it everywhere. Like you see the sign of the lady that's holding up the sign that it shows a hole on it, supposedly, like a marker on hole that's this
Yeah,
big, and another one that's this big and says, "This is what ARs do." No, it's not.
no.
What AR does that?
I need to know. I need to know
Maybe,
what
maybe
rounds
if
you're
it's a,
doing.
I was say maybe in a video game, but not in real life.
Maybe
They don't do that.
you've got some new explosive tip round. I don't know if that's an existing thing or not. Maybe that's what you got shot with. I don't know. But a regular gun is not doing that. I'm sorry. It's
Or
not.
they'll follow, and this is the one that really bugs me the most, is what's called anecdotal evidence, which is where you use a story to try to say that that's evidence of other things that are
Like,
related, but it's not actually evidence. Like
so,
the guy who went to the shooting range with the AR, and he was supposed to be like a retired general or something,
yeah,
and he
and
shot
he
15
like
rounds and said he had PTSD from it.
and he
Like
shot
that's the
not
dumbest thing I've
only
ever heard.
if it's the same one thinking about. Was it a older like really white haired individual
Yeah,
wearing
yeah,
kind of like a blue shirt or not shirt like a blue.
jacket or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the way he held it, so like he did not have chin to stock. He had his head like cocked at like a 95-degree angle, and then when he shot, he like leaned back with like he. There's no way you're a retired officer and can't shoot a gun. I'm sorry, you lied.
if even no,
You were a
no,
paid actor.
even if he is, it's very possible that he hadn't shot a gun in 40 years. Whatever
True.
the case is, he obviously didn't know what he was talking about when
Yeah.
he's talking about how it hurt his shoulder. No, no, you're just a pansy. Okay, there's
Not
no
from
way.
15 rounds.
And not
Maybe
just that, when
four
you
or
say something like
500.
that, and then 30 seconds later say he got a little PTSD from it, that
No.
means you don't know guns and you don't know PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. So you're wrong on two counts. But that video played over and over for the longest time because that's what the journalists wanted to push.
Yeah. I
So
had
that's why I don't
another.
like. That's why I don't like the anecdote. I don't. I don't like them being like, "This is what happened to me." So that's what. It must be terrible for everybody. No,
And
you're
like
fine.
how they say playing first person shooters it ties into the school shooting violence. I
Oh
see
my
that
goodness.
plastered every time there's a school shooting. Well, he played Call of Duty or he played Halo. That has nothing to do. You know what it has to do with? Y'all don't know how to raise your own fucking kids to not bully somebody to the point where it's like they're either gonna kill themselves or kill the school.
Okay. Here's the thing with it. I could. This is another one of those things where you can see how they came to that conclusion if they're using assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
but not if they're using logic and evidence.
True.
Because I've seen some studies that say it's possible that that could be a factor, but I've never seen one that said it actually was proven because it hasn't been. It's a theory like everything else. But because they agree with it, they treat it like it's not a theory, it's real,
Mm-hmm.
which again is not how the news is supposed to work. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be just giving us the information, not telling us that we have to believe something, or that because it's what they believe, it's the only thing they're going to tell us. That's not real news. That's
No,
just
not even close.
that's what we're doing. It's more talk shows.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, with the bullying concept, there's kids out there that I was personally when I was in high school, I got bullied all the time. I hated my life when I was in school. I hated every aspect of it, and there was really no good things about going to school. And that was from my personal stance. I don't know how school was for you, or I can't speak on other people, but there are people that I knew got bullied worse than me, and like I could only imagine their thought processes every day. Like if they was to, it was one of those thought processes was like, if I see him coming to school with a gun, I understand why, because people pushed him to that limit. At the
Right.
same time, I can't stop it. The people who stop stuff like that is the parents, is the schools. When you go to the school and say, "Hey, this kid is bullying me to this point. Can y'all please do something?" They're like, we'll take care of it," and then they like suspend him for 2 days, and then he comes back. Like y'all, there should be an actual bullying program to fix stuff like that. That should come from the media. Media should put that out there. Be like, hey, if y'all would learn to raise your kids the right way and not let them bully people to this point, these things will probably never happen again.
Perfect
Raise your.
example of that is the recent shooting in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and now the parents are being charged, or at least I'm understanding is they're either being charged or going to be charged or possibly charged something because even though they didn't directly cause it to happen, they had all kinds of warning signs, including being called to the school and being like, "Hey, here's the stuff your kid's talking about, the stuff he's drawn, and we're worried about it. If
That
nothing
happened.
else, can you just take him home for the day?" And they were like, "No, we're not doing that."
Yeah, I think they called them up there to talk about that, and then the shooting happened the same day, didn't it?
Yeah, it was the same day. It was that
I thought.
afternoon.
I thought so.
Not just that, but like, okay, so they're doing. They even had a message from the mother where she texted him, and she was like, "It's okay that you did this stuff. We're not mad. It's fine." Before the shooting, not for the shooting, before the
Yeah.
shooting, but talking about the stuff that they'd been called to school for in the first place. I was like, no, if your kid's drawing himself shooting people, you don't just tell him it's okay. You're not mad. You figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, you pull them out of school and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
But they were more
and
concerned
actually
about being,
listen.
yeah, they were too concerned about being his friend or something. But, oh no, it's okay. We're not mad. No, be mad. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So like me personally, I have a son. If if my son is being bullied, I'm going to sit him down and have the bully talk. I'm going to be an active parent. I'm going to go out of my way to make sure my son is not bullied again. I'm going to be that active person. I'm going to the school. I'm going through every channel I have to prevent something like that. If more parents took that thought process and media, I can say the media, if the media got more involved in bullying cases, we would not have that much of a problem in this world. That's a fact. In my personal, I don't even think that's a personal opinion. I think if more people got active about not bullying people, including media, schools, parents, and everybody took that
I'm
step,
about to say,
things would get better.
and some of that falls on the parents too when they're like, no, you can't discipline my kid.
No, 90% of it falls on the parents.
Why?
Uh, because if the parents not.
No. I mean, that's what I'd be asking them is why
Yeah,
can't they discipline your kids? If they're at the school and you're not there, somebody needs to do something.
yeah.
Even if that something is calling you to the school. But if they call you to school and you don't do something, they should be able to still.
Mm-hmm. And then
Although I
if
will say this, in the case in this past case, the school should be in trouble too, because mandatory reporting means that they should have contacted an authority figure. And as far as I know, I know in other states, but as far as I know, Michigan as well, just contacting the parents doesn't qualify.
yeah,
And if they
and
had called somebody else and got them there and actually, including the school resource officer, which they had, and actually made somebody keep an eye on this kid or search his backpack or something,
mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So when you have a threat level of that case, when it comes to school shootings and whatnot, if you suspect it, call the parents, call the police. Point blank. Period. That should be the exact process that happens. Hey, I want you to know some stuff's going on with your son. We're contacting you. We're also contacting the police. If you can get up here as soon as possible. Boom. Guess what? Those people would not have been shot that day. Do your job.
I've been in situations where I had to do mandatory reporting, and I know that like there's a degree of where you're like you want to help them in a way that doesn't get them in trouble, but at the same time you got to know that you may not be the best help.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you feel like you got to help them, you might have to help other people too. And when you know that they have been considering hurting other people, that's mandatory reporting grounds. You contact authority. You don't go, oh, the parents don't care, whatever. That was just stupid on everybody's part. Everybody involved in that was just stupid.
Yeah.
Moving
So,
on.
so we kind of
And
went
that's
off
been covered.
topic.
But even for that, even the coverage of that though, is they're talking about, oh yeah, parents get charged. Here's what the parents did, but it's not saying, hey, here's what they should have done, or here's other options. It's just they did this. Yeah, I guess they're getting charged
Yeah.
anyways. And then moving on to the car that drove itself through a parade.
Yeah. So we kind of, I don't want to say went off topic because all of this is media coverage stuff or media related coverage stuff. So let's say on a, you know how I like to end things here with the full disclosure agreement or discussion. Full disclosure, if somebody somewhere leaked that the government actually does cause certain events to cover up bigger events like this, how do you think it would affect the world? Not just the U.S., but the entire world. If that was the case.
That depends. If it was general, just hey, we can prove they're doing it. I don't think anything would change because I think most people accept it's a reality. We just don't know to what degree. If it was specific, if it got down to hey, they've been involved in coverage of these events, here's how they were involved. I honestly don't know what would happen next because it would depend on the cases. But for the most part, I think all that would happen would be a bunch of, it's going to sound rude, but I'm just being honest. There'd just be a bunch of whining, moaning, complaining, and hey, we're going to kick all them out of office, and then we would just replace them with more politicians just like them, and it wouldn't change anything.
All right, so
Because that's what we do. We just cycle politicians with the same problems.
so in the sense of that, I think if we was to not generalize it, let's say we could 100% state, hey, this was a cover up, this is what they did, and it was let's say the Maxwell case. Let's say in the sense that they did have the kid shoot the school up to cover up this in a hypothetical sense. If they were able to 100% prove it, come out and show facts, I think there would be a lot of anarchy. A lot of people would go crazy, and I don't know to what degree, but I think that I think we might have another situation where we overthrow the government, where
I don't.
nobody is going to listen to the government about anything,
I don't
because
think
in
people are brave enough or committed enough for that. I think you'd be on the right track if it was something. I hate to say something bigger because I know how that sounds, but what I mean is something on a bigger scale. Uh,
that's what where my brain is pulling from is if it was
Something like that would be more. I
a
could see it being
monumental
a
situation.
local
Like,
problem,
all right,
but
so let's use this as an example. Yellowstone, the Yellowstone volcano. Let's say they know for 100% fact what day it's going to explode, and they tell nobody. That will affect the entire United States. Let's just use that as an example.
in fact,
And
half the
you
world.
Yeah, and you can 100% prove what's going to happen. Like they have documentation from, let's say, the president. You sign from the president knowing what's going on. I think it would be anarchy. I really
Yeah.
honestly do. Because if it's something that big and they're using other events to cover up what's going to happen or coming up instead of giving the proper information, I honestly think the entire world will go to chaos because
Uh,
nobody will believe any media source ever again, and nobody's going to have any trust in their governments.
that's the problem, though. I think the only thing they wouldn't believe is the media we have now. But we have just we're cynical just enough. People as a whole are just cynical enough to be like, all right, y'all are lying. The other guys probably knew about it. They got to be lying too. So
Mm-hmm.
we need everybody out. But then everybody that stepped back up, because people are also naturally lazy, everybody that replaced them, they're just going to accept. They
Yeah,
might question them, but they're not going to question them like they should, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So it's not actually going to solve anything. And especially if it's just more local stuff like the Rittenhouse case or the shooting in Michigan or even the Flint, Michigan water that's been for years but was still localized.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen instead is there's just going to be uprising in those small areas, and the new national media coverage is going to just do the same thing and start focusing on other stuff, and it's going to go away eventually because they don't have national support.
Yep. So I don't know. I think we just started to scratch the surface on this. We might circle back to this and make part two, talking about some other potentials that they've used to cover things up or whatnot. We'll discuss that at a later date and figure out what's going on. But guys, that's what we're gonna end it right here. We're gonna wrap things up. Thank you for all the love and support y'all been showing up to this point. Please keep on smashing that like button, keep on sharing it, hit the sub button. It helps a lot more than you think. Uh, Shane, do you have anything you would like to plug? I don't know if you have started anything since last week.
No, no, not yet. We'll have something soon, but not yet.
All right, so there will be a email address down in the description below. If anybody has any specific things y'all want to hear us talk about, or if you feel you're knowledgeable enough to talk about it and want to join us on the show, shoot an email to that email address that's on there. We'll check you out. We'll be in contact with people, whether you want to be on here, if you just want to hear us talk about it.
And hey, questions and arguments, whatever about what we talk about is welcome too,
Yeah,
as long
100%.
as long as you say something worth saying. Don't just be like y'all are stupid, because if so, I don't care. Right. But if you want to discuss something, hey, we'd love that.
Oh yeah, but so I've said it at the end of every episode. I am also a Twitch streamer, TikToker, you name it. I put content out. I'm a content creator. If you want to see me on any of those platforms where I'm less serious, more joking and goofy, more than welcome to check the description. My link tree will be that down there. Check me out on whatever you want to, or don't. It's up to you completely. But yeah, we're gonna end it right there. Y'all have a great and blessed day. And like that,
Yeah.
we out.